Okay, what we're talking about today is how those things that might frustrate you in your partnership with someone, how those can actually become really good things that bind you together. So, the partnership I'm talking about is really that romantic partnership. So, your wife, your partner, your girlfriend. Now, they've all got things they do that drive us crazy. Let's look at it from our perspective. And and what I found was rather than being driven crazy by those quirky things, what is it that we can do that we see them as quirky things that don't affect our relationship in a negative way, that helps us in a positive way? And there's two sides to this, right? There's that side where you're not driven nuts by something that they do, but conversely, how can they stop being driven nuts by something that you do, especially if it's such an innate thing? And there was a saying I came across, and it was in every partnership, there's one person that packs the dishwasher like a Scandinavian architect, which is me in the relationship, and the other packs the dishwasher like a raccoon on meth. And that sums up, that is my wife, and that sums up our partnership beautifully, to the point where, and I think she's completely outsmarted me, she is banned from loading the dishwasher because I have to sort of unload half of it to reload it to get in the extra bits of plates and cutlery to get the wash done that night. So it's easier for me to just pack it the once rather than unpack half and put it in. It's simple, right? It's like playing Tetris. You've got to make sure the right shapes fit in the right way to use all the space, and having breathing space between plates and the cutlery and everything before the wash starts. Simple, right? Okay, I'm going down there. But that's saying that in every partnership, one is like a Scandinavian architect and the other is like raccoon on meth, that resonated with us. And it made that thing that my wife does that drives me nuts, talking about just the dishwasher, there's a myriad of things I do to drive her nuts, just became something that put a humorous sort of hue and angle on it. And because it was humorous, it was just this is who you are and this is what you do. This is who I am and what I do. And yeah, as I say, it took a lot of heat off. The other thing I came across was a show called The Mindy Project, which written by and stars Mindy Kaling. And there was a number of things she did that was just quirky things that reflected her personality in that show, either real life for her or probably more the character. But they were quirky, funny things, and they were the same things my wife does. So instead of them being things that drove me nuts, because I laughed at those things in the show, it had this sort of transference into our relationship where I could laugh at those same things, like I couldn't believe she thought that way. But the fact that I know she does, I find hysterical. So, why I'm sharing this with you is because it reframed the same thing. So rather than the same things driving you nuts over and over again, and don't think I've taken this exhaustive list of things that drive me nuts, and same for my wife with what I do that drive her nuts. And we've taken those exhaustive lists and taken them from what drives us nuts to, things that make us laugh. It hasn't. Because I do weird stuff. Not weird stuff, that sounds so bad. Okay, not weird stuff. But stuff she can't get her head around, and she does stuff I can't get my head around. So when she's working from home, I'll walk into the room that she's in, and the thing is it's like a sauna. And I'm like, what? So those are the things that's like a point of difference. Anyway, it's not the whole thing that comes across. The whole list, from the things that drives you nuts about someone to now something you can laugh about. But at least there's a good chunk of those things now that have converted across, and that takes a lot of pressure off, or we found, the relationship. Because I think when we look at things other people do, we look at them through almost like a lens of logic. in terms of how we would do things. And of course, how we would do things is logical. Whether it's logical or not, we look at it as logic because that's why we do it. We've rationalized why we do it the way we do it. And then, of course, when you see someone else do it a different way, unless it's super clever, cool, and you go, oh, I'm going to steal that idea, you go, why would you do it that way? And of course, when you've got different cultures coming together in relationships, and I don't mean culture in terms of, I suppose we're talking ethnicities and stuff like that. Just everybody comes from a culture or a subculture. But of course, when two come together, there's always going to be, if you think of it like a Venn diagram, there's going to be a bit of overlap where, there's common ground, even on small tasks and chores and stuff like that, where you do it the same way. But outside of that intersection in that Venn diagram, there's stuff that your partner does that you'd never do that way and vice versa. So by being able to laugh about some of these things now and recognizing that that is their logic, their part in the Venn diagram where you share that common ground, it sort of gets a little bit wider. And those things that you do that's different gets a little bit narrower, or at least if that part in the middle of the Venn diagram doesn't get wider, at least those parts that don't overlap, there's a little bit more acceptance or even humor about it rather than being frustrated by it. So I thought I'd share that because love the quirky thing about your partner rather than being frustrated about the quirkiness of your partner is the best path to go down. Love the quirky, don't be frustrated by the quirky. That's it. That's it. So it's humor rather than frustration. We've all got, our brains are all equal, but they think differently. And I think we're starting to recognize that more and more. Before, I think everybody thought everyone thinks the same, or at least should think the same. So before dyslexia was even recognized, or Tourette's. Those are some of the first two, I think, when we talk about non-neurotypical sort of thinking or thought patterns or the way the brain functions. You know the story. People with dyslexia, especially if the school was relatively harsh, they would get punished as a form of as a corrective action, so they would write in a particular way. Left-handed people. So, and then now, of course, more recently, we have much better understanding about what was ADD, and generally it's thought of now as ADHD and elements like that, and autism. And now, rather than it being binary, you have it or you don't, all on some type of spectrum. Now, I'm not trying to give a clinical analysis of the way that our brains work, but all I'm trying to say is what I've seen recently seems like the message is we all tend to think a little bit differently. Most of us think in a similar way, and there's a lot of overlap, and some of us, like your normal distribution, a little bit more on the extremes, but we're all in slightly different places. And that comes through into our relationships and the way that we talk and communicate, and the way that the other person thinks. We might think differently, but we look at it through how we think as logical, and others don't. So rather than being frustrated, sorry, this is a big loop. It is kind of important though, maybe, I think so. It's helped me. But rather than being frustrated, understand that is that person's, their personality or their trait, and find it quirky cool. Now, obviously, do I even have to put this in? I'm not talking about, obviously, things like domestic violence or gambling or any addiction issues or stuff like that. I'm talking about the way we pack our dishwasher, or the fact that someone never puts the lid back on the toothpaste, or what's the thing that I do. There must be something I do. Can't think of it. But that's the thing, right? I probably can't think of it because everything I do I think is, kind of right. I know what it is. Every so often, the clothes that I'm going to wear the next day, I fold up and put on the dresser table rather than sort of putting them away. Yeah, I sometimes get a bit of a chirp in the ear about that. But the things that we do, just as much as you can, make it, the quirky thing about them, make it a humorous thing. So yeah, I do. I pack the dishwasher all the time now. I clean the kitchen. So, and what we have is we have a deal. Nav, by and large, does a lot of the meal. Oh no, I help with a lot of the meal prep. There's a lot of stuff she won't touch. like she doesn't like touching chicken. She'll eat it, doesn't like to touch it. So I touch the chicken, get the meal prep done. Quirky, cool, right? And I do a lot of the meal prep. Then I'll shoot off, do something. She'll do a bit of the cooking, and then the kitchen is is a bit of a state afterwards. Full kitchen cleaning duties are with me, and that's the way I like it. And while I'm cleaning the kitchen, she's doing some reading. So, you know, so what I'm saying is, if you have to pick up some of the slack, like with me with the dishwasher, and it was the dishwasher, now it's the whole kitchen. How did that happen? But you make a bit of a deal. I'll do this, you do that. This is my strength, I'll do this. You're just terrible at packing the dishwasher. You pack it like a raccoon on meth. You do something else. So I'll do the dishwasher. What is it that you want to do? And that's it. Just separate it. So yeah. She still packs the dishwasher every so often. It's a shocker. It's so bad. It's so bad. Oh, okay. It's the same sort of thing. If someone can't pack a dishwasher, then they can't put stuff back in the fridge. You know, they'll take the smallest item out of the fridge, put it back, but not in the same place, and they'll find like the biggest gap and put that small thing right in the middle of the biggest gap, rather than going, what's the smallest gap that I can fit this in, and then use that gap. So economy. Anyway. Anyway, okay, you can tell this is a Friday video, but the key message is, if you can take those frustrations you have in your relationship, don't let them manifest as frustrations. How can you reframe them, especially the quirky, cool things that define how special that person is, and reframe them to be humorous? That's it. Nav loves the fact that she's thought of as a raccoon on meth. And do you know what? I love the fact that I'm thought of as a Scandinavian architect, the precision of, and the cleanliness and the thoughtfulness behind the Scandinavian architect as I pack the dishwasher. That's it. Out. These videos are all about making life more simple, easier, and performance improvement. If you want to, you know what to do. If you want to be across other ones, then hit subscribe. Tell you what, go a step further. If you're not sure, hit subscribe, but make a note in your phone or your calendar or whatever in a month's time to reevaluate it. And if you're not watching these videos, unsubscribe. Don't let the amount of subscriptions just build up where it becomes unwieldy for yourself. That's it. Catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye.